no amnesty, okay? The Trump administration is done. They said, we don't care. You got farm workers out there in California, too bad. Nobody's getting amnesty. You got farm workers in New York, too bad. Nobody's getting it. We actually have to be consistent here, and we're not going to allow some people to break the rules and not other people to break the rules. This came up in a cabinet meeting. I want to play you what the president had to say on that, and then we'll go to the Department of Agriculture.
Toward an American workforce. So all of the above.
We've got to give the farmers the people they need, but we're not talking amnesty. Laura, do you want to say something about that?
Thank you, Mr.
You heard him. We're not talking amnesty. No way, Jose. Not talking amnesty. And then Brooke reinforced this, Brooke Rollins, Department of Agriculture, there in a press conference.
I think I answered the second question, where we are on farm labor, a little bit earlier. But what I will say is that Lori Chavez de Rimmer is our Secretary of Labor. And the H-2A visa program, all of the programs that inure to moving in seasonal ag workers are under Secretary Chavez de Rimmer. She has been working around the clock with her team. I think we'll probably hear a little bit more about this today, and the conversations will continue. But I can't underscore enough, there will be no amnesty. The mass deportations continue, but in a strategic way, and we move the workforce towards automation and 100% American participation, which again, with 34 million people, able-bodied adults on Medicaid, we should be able to do that fairly quickly. Thank you.
Woo! Okay, so did you hear that? That's a big deal. That is a big deal. And it means that all of these sanctuary cities and states and municipalities out there, they're going to have to face the music, including, the Chicago mayor, who thinks he can do things his way. He thinks that there needs to be no cooperation with ICE whatsoever. You don't have to cooperate with DHS or federal officials. You can have your own little police force. In the city of Chicago, I don't think so, by the way. If I were you in Chicago, I might think about quadrupling that police force. Mayor Brandon Johnson. Here we are.
Division. Look, we are a welcoming city ordinance. Our local police department will not ever cooperate with ICE. Whatever their constitutional authority is.
They have it. They have the constitutional authority. So what are you trying to do, buddy? What do you want, a civil war? Is that where this is going? Because you want to be able to have 20 million people coming in over a 4-year time period that Biden just said, come one, come all. And now they can come here and you can commit a crime. And now you're going to stand in the way of the Department of Homeland Security doing its job, which, by the way, Obama did this, for goodness sakes. He was deporting 1,000 people a day. Okay? Like, this is the law. You don't like the law, you can go ahead and change it. But as it stands right now, it is the law. And when you say things like that, I can't help but wonder where you're going. Okay, I got to play it again because I just want to make sure that we're hearing this right. This is the mayor of Chicago saying he doesn't give a rat's you know what about the damn Constitution.
Division. Look, we are a welcoming city ordinance. Our local police department will not ever cooperate with ICE.
Woo! Okay, he said it. I'm just saying, guys, what they're trying to do right now is set up an unbelievable tension. And I'm going to tell you right here and now, they're going to lose this argument at the Supreme Court. So then my question is, where are they going with this? Like, what is the goal here? You guys want to defund ICE. Okay, you want to get rid of ICE. You want to just have open borders. Well, you actually would have to have a Congress that would go along with that and maybe add some amendments to the Constitution because, there's this thing called the Naturalization Clause, a few other clauses in there, Supremacy Clause, Commerce Clause. I can think of a few that actually do give the federal government the power to enforce the borders. So if you're going to stand in the way of the federal government, well, then the federal government is going to come in and do exactly what they did to California recently. And they're going to federalize your National Guard because you are standing in opposition to the federal government. It's not that hard, okay? That's what happened in 1963 Alabama, George Wallace. You didn't want to integrate the schools? Well, guess what? The feds came in and said, you're going to do it. You guys don't want to actually cooperate with ICE and allow for the arrest of any individuals that are here illegally that have committed a crime, well, guess what? The Trump administration will federalize your National Guard, and you're trying to set up some kind of weird scenario. I don't know. I mean, you think about what we saw out of the Los Angeles mayor within the last 48 hours or 36 hours. She's out there acting like, you know, she's the general in the army taking on all the ICE officers on horseback, right? So this got put out by her, actually. This is Karen Bass who tweeted this out. It's a picture and video of the ICE officers and the DHS officials coming in saying, you know, okay, we're going to sweep MacArthur Park, which has a terrible reputation for being a bad place filled with bad people who do bad things. Okay, we're talking gang members, etc. And it's not exactly the kind of place where you would ever allow for your children to go and play. And yet she's trying to portray it like it's something totally different than that. And then when she hears that they're out there, you know, on the horses and all that, here's some video of it I can show you right now.
Yeah, all right.
Take a look. And so you see, you know, they're out there on the horses and they're all mad because they're covered up with their faces. There's a reason for that, by the way. They're covering their faces because they're facing all kinds of violence and attacks as recently as just yesterday. One that could have been serious in Texas. You understand why there's some need to preserve their privacy. And yet Karen Bass decides she's going to get out there and, you know, be the general of the army and take them on. Here she is.
I am going to say,
Mayor Bass, I need to get my phone and we're departing.
Okay. All right. Mayor Bass.
Mayor Bass.
Any comment, Mayor Bass?
Thank you.
Mayor Bass, any comment?
Yes, my comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak with?
Just wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
They will be leaving soon.
Mayor Bass, who did you speak with on the phone just now? Who did you speak with on the phone?
They had a custody.
Wow.
It's like she thinks she's, I don't know, LaMonica? LaMonica 2.0? We got a new LaMonica on the scene. You know, she may have to gain a few if she's going to really throw her weight around. I'm just saying, okay? Karen Bass, you're no match for LaMonica MacGyver, who was willing to put her whole physical body where her mouth is. Remember, of course, in Newark, New Jersey. And we know what happened to LaMonica after this little episode. You know, forgive me if you watch this show every day. You know, we play this a lot because it's just unbelievable to see. And by the way, the DHS has even better video where they're accusing her of really and truly assaulting some of these federal officers. But she's pushing her way through because she wants to make her way into the Delancey Center there in Newark, New Jersey, so that she can make sure that everybody who has committed a crime, who is being held and detained there, is being held and detained under proper circumstances and, you know, has 3 squares a day, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just looking at Karen. I'm like, okay, you got a ways to go. But we don't really want her doing that. We don't want LaMonica doing that. We don't want anyone doing that. LaMonica still can't understand how the heck she's in trouble. I mean, this woman is so moronic. I get that she's a junior. She's a junior senator. Forgive me. Hardly a senator. Congressperson from New Jersey. And she felt that this was her job, except that, you know, most normal people would call up and make an appointment and not decide to just stampede through the crowd, all dressed in red, right? I mean, but LaMonica is not a normal person, nor is Karen Bass, nor is Brandon Johnson, nor is Letitia James, nor is Kathy Hochul. You understand, nor is Gavin Newsom for that matter. I mean, they are trying to politicize this in, frankly, a way that I consider to be quite dangerous. But here's LaMonica saying, oh, it's so tough. I've got to raise money now for my legal fees. And, you know, my family is so worried. Maybe you should have thought all this through before you know, muscled your way through that crowd.
Yes.
What was it like to be in the courtroom?
I mean, there was a mix of emotions to be there. I mean, obviously, you know, this is a crazy situation. I never thought I would be facing charges as a sitting congresswoman. It's a scary situation too, because I'm thinking of my mom. I'm thinking of my mom who was there with me, who's like stressed out about this,
I
right?
bet. That's a stressed out thing for a mom.
When they're saying that you're going to face 17 years in prison, I'm thinking about my daughter who's 9 years old. I'm thinking about my husband, my family, and it's like, oh my God, this is awful. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to stop doing my job because I know why I was there and I know why I'm being attacked. And so definitely just a mix of emotions during that period of time.
Oh, it's such a mix of emotions. We feel so bad for you. I mean, there's more tape where that one came from.
We should let viewers know there will likely be more arrests coming. We actually have body camera footage of some of these members of Congress assaulting our ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer. So we will be showing that to viewers very shortly.
Can you say okay, so he's like, okay, you've really got the video. She said, yes, we've got the video. So now you're looking at Los Angeles mayor possibly facing 17 years if they're going to put in place the same kind of, they can go after her and they can actually indict her for exactly what they indicted LaMonica MacGyver for, which would be violating Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111A1 for assaulting, impeding, interfering with law enforcement. You can take assaulting off, so maybe she's not going to get 17 years, right? But impeding and interfering with law enforcement, those are biggies right there. And by the way, it's not just her. Okay, you're talking about Letitia James, who, by the way, the DOJ has already sued. You're talking about Kathy Hochul, whom they have sued. And you're talking about, well, the head of the DMV there in New York, whom they have sued. All of these people are being confronted with the reality of the law because there is this thing, again, called the Constitution. And I know Gary's metal detecting. You want to see her, you know what? He's talking about Karen Bass. Can I get this up on screen? It's hard to see. But anyway, Gary's metal detecting says you can put her. Thank you for your generosity. Put her Karen Bass, in jail. That's a good one. All right. So anyway, Alina's in a lot of trouble. I mean, Alina's going after them. So LaMonica's in a lot of trouble. You've got Karen Bass that's in a lot of trouble. You've now got Brandon Johnson saying, I'm not going to cooperate. I'm like, guys, I keep going back to what Christy says. And you know what? This is not just Christy. I don't need to play it for you. Maybe later this week we will, but you always have to have sort of a deep breath before you get into the Obama sound because he takes forever to speak. And it's effectively exactly what she's saying. She just says it a little bit more powerfully. Let's listen to Christy Noem saying, hey, I don't make the laws. Okay. You guys want to change the laws? You go change the laws. But AOC, LaMonica, Letitia, Kathy Hochul, Brandon Johnson, Bass, don't get hooked. You guys, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle in more ways than one.
My only question to you, I'd say a question back to you is, which laws in the United States should be enforced and which ones shouldn't? I mean, my job, here's the deal, guys. My job is not to pick and choose which laws we enforce and which ones we don't. We have laws in this country, and they matter. If you want the law changed, go to Congress. When's the last time you went to Capitol Hill and told your senator or representative to change it? That's what they need to do. This is the perfect time for Congress to make a decision on how they want people in this country to be able to have an opportunity to come here legally and to fix this. We, as law enforcement officers and as a national security department and agency, my job is to uphold the law, and that's what I will continue to do.
Boom. She's good. Okay, so CNN's having a hard time with all this. A lot of members of the media are having a hard time with this. I mean, all the Democrats are having a hard time with this. They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I mean, logically speaking, again, this is Barack Obama territory. This is exactly what he did. But because it's Donald Trump and we have TDS 2.0, which is apparently bigger and badder, okay, like it's a more aggressive form of the disease, shall we say. Trump, TDS 2.0, Trump derangement syndrome is getting, well, as I said, quite heightened, quite aggressive as it stands. And now CNN had this just complete meltdown. And one of the things that really bothers me, I'm just going to point this out, is that they keep going back to 1930s Germany and to the Holocaust and to World War II. And they keep making these comparisons to places where 6 million Jews were killed. I mean, you're talking about wiping out nearly an entire group of people. It's astonishing that they keep going back to this. And so I think it's kind of all rooted sort of in the same thing. When you look at Mamdani, the communist that wants to take over New York City, and you think about some of the things he said about Israel or about Netanyahu, et cetera, and then you hear this kind of meltdown on CNN where they're trying to say things that are just ridiculous and not true. I think that they're somewhat related. Let's listen in and bear with me because this is a pretty obnoxious, disgusting group of people saying bad stuff.
We don't know if they were looking for someone. We don't know if they arrested anybody. But clearly, whoever they were looking for, there was no one there but kids.
Well, I think this is the challenge I have with even talking about this. We are normalizing a government agency disappearing people. We are normalizing, we're talking about it like it's no big deal that they are kidnapping people and transporting them to concentration camps, both domestic and foreign.
Whoa. You heard that, right? Did I not say it was disgusting what you were going to hear? So just be forewarned. How dare she? How dare she? That is an insult to history, not only to all the Jews that were massacred, but also, by the way, to us and to our allies and to everybody who fought for freedom, for goodness sakes. God, would anybody, please take a history class? Please. I'm sick of the morons, and how dare they put them on television, but you got to hear it, right? You got to know what's out there.
I think that's kind of insulting to,
I think it's insulting what they're doing. It is not insulting to Jewish Holocaust. I find it insulting that you could even fix your mouth to defend this disgusting behavior.
It's not a death camp.
It doesn't matter. It's a concentration camp what they're doing, and they are disappearing people, claiming that these are people who have committed the most harsh crimes. But according to the reporting, less than 10% of these people have committed harsh crimes. So to do the victim Olympics and decide who had it worse, I can tell you, I can participate in that too. And everybody who says, "Oh, this is not the America I know," I can guarantee you it is the America I know. Can I finish my point, please?
Yes.
We are the fact that we're presenting this like it's political fodder, that a government agency is disappearing people. It is not a political point. It has nothing to do with Jewish people, because despite the fact that 20% of immigrants in this country are white, we do not see white people getting carted off to concentration camps. So if we can just focus on the people who are harmed the most by this, and not make yourself or somebody else the center of attention, when that's not who's getting impacted by this.
Jewish, but I'm saying
or anyone else the center of attention.
Tensions are so heightened using that kind of...
Right, because apparently Jews are not allowed to have any rights whatsoever, and it's completely fine to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. This is a nut job. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, but I just think the woman is completely uninformed, and I don't understand why they keep putting such moronic individuals on television. I mean, but again, I feel like you have to hear it because this is mainstream. For goodness sakes, they still show this network in the airports all over the country. Yeah, most of them. Although I've seen Fox in a few places. I consider that progress. But I mean, this is what mainstream America is consuming.
Language, I think, is not helpful.
The tensions are heightened because this BS administration is kidnapping people. It has nothing to do with my language. It has to do with the actions that are being taken by this administration.
And how many people have been disappeared that you've never heard from again, and we don't know anything about them or where they've gone?
Thousands of people.
Are you never heard about them? Where they're going? Nothing really.
Are you a reporter? Are you not a reporter? Yes, thousands of people.
We managed to find thousands of people in El Salvadoran prisons who, were sent.
I'm sorry. I just want to be clear. Are you defending?
I won't torture you. I just need you to know how bad it is. All right. And that's an example of what we're seeing out there. And you had that Payawel woman, the Congresswoman, Jemiah. She said a few things recently that were pretty awful. They want to defund ICE. Hakeem Jeffries kind of punted on that question when he was asked by The View the other day. And you have Jasmine Crockett, who they're looking to as their new superstar, AOC, watch out. You got some competition from this one out of Texas. I know, Leslie, I see you in the chat, and we feel for you every day. Having to have a congresswoman like this from the great state of Texas. But nonetheless, here she is, the phony Jasmine Crockett, who, by the way, went to a fancy prep school and paid a lot of money for college, etc. But you wouldn't know it by the way she talks.
I remember walking into another member's office, and one of her staffers says, "Did you see what happened to Alex?" Now, in the House, when someone says Alex, we all think AOC, because that's what we call her. We call her Alex.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we call her Alex. So I was like, what happened to Alex? And then the staffer points to the TV. And I look at the TV, and that's where...
By the way, she's talking about Padilla. Remember the senator that nobody had ever even seen before? I'm in the news business, and I had never even seen this guy. People are like, Kristi Noem should have known who he was. There's no way she would have known. He's sort of this nondescript guy who came in and didn't tell everybody who he was or why he was there, and he stormed the stage.
I see. I had no warning whatsoever. Yeah. And so I see they're playing a loop of what happened to Senator Padilla. And I literally just broke down in tears and started crying, because it is hard for me to imagine, you know, even just looking at Senator Padilla. This is the first Latino senator that the state of California has ever had. He is the senior senator in that state.
Yeah.
And
in the video, he announces he's a senator as well. He makes it very clear who he is. He identifies himself.
And then there's no respect, not like a modicum of respect for him, nor his position, nor his humanity. Right. Because first of all, I don't think that you need to be a senator to not have ICE take you to the ground because you had the audacity in a democracy where we supposedly respect free speech and freedom of press, even though he wasn't press, but it was a press conference. Like, you would think that you wouldn't do this to anybody, let alone a senator, but it tells you like how sinister this administration is. And like he said, and he said it almost through tears, imagine what they're doing to people that aren't senators.
Right. Okay.
Imagine what they're doing.
Let's just make one thing clear. It doesn't matter if you're a representative from Congress like LaMonica MacGyver. It doesn't matter if you are the newly appointed senator from California like Alex Padilla. See that? I speak Spanish, believe it or not. AOC doesn't. It's Sandy. Piece of my mind is pointing out, who knew she was called Alex? We thought it was Alexandria or Sandy for short. But Alex apparently is the new name du jour. Jasmine just informed us. But what's critical here is that somehow they think that they are above the law. They think that they can storm a press conference. I'm sorry, but you know what? You have a president who, while running, had 2 attempts on his life. We know a DHS agent was being shot at in Texas yesterday. You don't think that if you're Secretary Kristi Noem, you're not a little bit worried when someone's rushing the stage as Senator Padilla did? You can't do that. That's not okay. That's not normal behavior. You don't just rush on the scene. But you see, they're trying to make the administration seem evil. That is their goal. And they're repeating the same stuff over and over again. I mean, the concentration camp, for God's sakes, this is pathetic.
I forget about him, but Ron DeSantis is still governor of Florida. He took the Comfy Couch hosts on a tour of the concentration camp that he's building in Florida in order to round up people, brown people, and throw them in a camp because he doesn't want them in Florida. Surprise, surprise, the economy of Florida is going to be severely harmed by rounding up brown people who, by the way, all over this country, Latinos are afraid to go to work. Anybody who is perceived or looks Latino is afraid to go to work. I know people who are...
You know, one of the best ways to divide people, and I saw something on this yesterday that really, I'm looking for it on my phone because it hit me. I'll come back to it. Maybe even tomorrow we can talk about it, because it was actually a paper that was written back in 1965, I think. And what it said was one of the most sort of easiest and effective ways to divide and ruin a society is to, well, literally divide them by race, by gender, these days by, are you pro-Trump, anti-Trump? So you're dividing them by politics. You're dividing them based on whether or not they think it's okay for transgenders to compete against women, which, by the way, the Trump administration clearly does not think so. And they are suing California for right now. We're going to get to that story. I mean, this division is getting to be, frankly, from my estimation, just too much. They're my dad used to say, are you cruising for a bruising? I mean, they're cruising for a bruising, right? But it's a lot more than that, because this is that sort of fear of a total deterioration and collapse in American society. I would like to believe that that's not possible. And yet when you saw, for example, the success with the Iran strikes, and that was by all means, I mean, both sides for the most part were okay with that. Even Shifty Shift was like, wow, this is something, because it was something. And it hopefully made the world a much safer place. Just looking at the markets, you could see that. right away. And yet you had AOC calling for impeachment. So you understand, like, this kind of rhetoric is frankly reaching a tone where it's quite dangerous. And I'm going to tell you all day long, rhetoric is okay, right? Speech is okay. But is there no sense of decency? I think that that's the problem. We've totally lost this decency. And now the answer is, well, we're going to defund ICE. We're not going to allow for this. We're going to demand that everybody have to wear their face open so that we can take pictures, and then we can out them all over the internet and their families can be attacked. I mean, this is what these guys and these women that are working for DHS really are up against. And so this came up today in a press conference just moments ago. I want to bring you this sound from the president because he's being asked by the Fox reporter, what do you think about these Democrat bills where they're saying, hey, you're not allowed as an ICE officer to go masked. You must actually show your face. And again, remember this within the context of what just happened in Texas and listen to Donald Trump's response. Here it is.
And on one other subject, two Democratic senators now, Cory Booker and Alex Padilla, have a new bill out. They want to require CBP and ICE officers to have legible IDs, and they don't want CBP or ICE officers covering their faces. Would you ever sign that?
Well, they wouldn't be saying that if they didn't hate our country, and they obviously do. I'm surprised that they would do it, knowing a little bit about them. I don't know them well, but these officers are doing a tremendous job. They're great patriots. If you expose them because of, statements like have been made by Democrats and others on the left, usually, mostly, I think probably exclusively, you put them in great danger, tremendous danger. And it's sort of funny when people picket in front of Columbia, in front of Harvard, and they have masks on, more than masks. I mean, you can't see anything. Nobody complains about that. But when a patriot who works for ICE or Border Patrol puts a mask on so that they won't recognize him and his family, so they can lead a little bit of a normal life after having worked so hard and so dangerously, there's a problem with that. So they have this is the problem with the Democrats. They have a lot of bad things going on in their heads. They've really become they've lost their confidence, number one, and they've become somewhat deranged. I want to do whatever's necessary to protect our great law enforcement people, and they are right at the top of the list.
Wow. Well said, okay? And it really is sort of amazing. Like if you're at Columbia University or at UPenn or Harvard and you want to go on campus and chant and, do all the horrible stuff that they did, making one group of students feel really, really uncomfortable, obviously. And frankly, anybody, like who the heck wants to walk through that? They had to shut down classes. Remember that at Columbia? They couldn't even have the graduation, for goodness sakes. You pay all that money for 4 years and can't even graduate? Right? Just, And yet it's totally fine for them to wear the masks, but ICE officers who are being threatened with their lives they want to take the mask off of them. I mean, this doesn't really even make any sense. And I think it's getting to the point where we are in a very precarious spot, and something's going to have to give.
Who were these suspects who were who actually fired the shots and were later arrested? Who were they, Tom?
Look, they're your typical protesters that go from protesters to criminals. The attack on ICE officers, you've covered it many times, is up nearly 700% now. We were talking 500% a couple weeks ago, so it continues. The rhetoric against the men and women of ICE is skyrocketing, especially by members of Congress. We have senators, we have Congress people that compare ICE to the Nazis, compare ICE to racists, and it just continues. So the public thinks, well, if a member of Congress can attack ICE, why can't we? So the rhetoric has to stop. Or it's a matter of time for someone, one of the ICE officers goes down or a criminal goes down. But we already see an officer go down.
To be clear, so these were American citizens? These weren't illegals who opened fire?
No. As far as the investigation, I want to get ahead of the local investigation on this, but they appear to be agitators, people that are protesting ICE operations, damaging ICE property, want to attack ICE officers.
And this is why the administration is just saying, hey, can we have a truce? I mean, these people work for the federal government. They're trying to do their job. They're trying to enforce the law. Obama did this. I mean, we realize you guys have TDS 2.0, and it's a very vicious form, right, of TDS. It's worse for whatever reason than 1.0. But you guys got to stop.
Michael in the back.
Thank you, Caroline. An armed shooter today was shot in McAllen, Texas, after opening fire on Border Patrol agents. Comes just days after Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal recently said she gets, quote, inspired when activists obstruct ICE. Does the White House expect Democrats to tone down their rhetoric in light of what we saw today in McAllen, Texas?
We certainly call on Democrats to tone down their rhetoric against ICE and Border Patrol agents who, again, are everyday men and women. I would encourage AOC and other Democrats to actually meet with the United States Border Patrol. These are honorable Americans who are just simply trying to do their job to enforce the law. They go home to their families every night just like we all do, and they deserve respect and dignity for trying to enforce our nation's immigration laws and to remove public safety threats from our communities. The White House is aware of the shooting that took place today in Texas, and we are working with the appropriate federal agencies to get to the bottom of what happened.
You better believe it. You know, human beings just trying to actually protect our country, and look at what they're up against. Anyway, all of these people are going to face in my opinion, similar fate to LaMonica MacGyver, because she's been charged, as I said, violating Title 18 U.S. Code Section 111A1. Now, in this case, I don't know as they were assaulting, but they were certainly impeding, and they certainly were interfering with law enforcement. Whether you got Karen Bass out in Chicago, whether you got Karen Bass out in L.A., or Brandon Johnson out in Chicago, or whether it is Letitia James, the AG in New York, or Kathy Hochul there. I mean, at least Eric Adams is cooperating. But wow, I mean, Michelle Wu, we haven't even gotten into her out there in Boston. They really think that they are their own islands and they have their own little militias, and they're going to run totally amok of what the federal government and the Constitution demands and says. You got the communist Mamdani, who has already made it very, very clear that he's going to do exactly what the mayor of Chicago said he's going to do. We're not going to cooperate. If this guy gets elected, and by the way, guys, he's got actually a fairly decent shot at getting elected, as scary as that sounds. This is why we came here. All of our ancestors came here to get away from regimes that would dole out property, right? Remember? I mean, nobody wanted the monarch to be handing you a piece of property. You wanted a chance to actually own it yourself. It's written right into the Constitution. Fifth Amendment. We did that on the 4th of July show, right? All about life, liberty, happiness, and by the way, the right to own property. They can't just take it away from you. That's a big deal. But this communist who wants to be the next New York City mayor, he thinks he can take it away from you. He's going to decommodify housing, he says. And he's going to make sure that he does not cooperate with ICE under any circumstances because, well, why would we do that, right? Here he is speaking on CNN.
It's back into the public sector.
All right. So you caught a lot of attention for confronting Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, about the deportation policies, which have a lot of impact here in New York. Here you are.
I remember that.
Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? So that moment went viral. All right. Then after the primary, Homan was asked about your plan, which is on your website. You said that you would end the city's cooperation with ICE agents that has been going on under Mayor Adams. And he has spoken out. Here's what he said.
Good luck with that. Federal law trumps him every day, every hour of every minute. We're going to be in New York City. Game on. We're coming.
Game on. He's coming. What do you say?
That I'm going to be here to stand up and fight back. And unlike the current mayor, I'm not going to be working alongside the Trump administration to build the single largest deportation force in American history. I'm going to actually represent each and every New Yorker. And that includes immigrant New Yorkers. And that means standing up for the laws of this city, like our sanctuary city policies, which have kept New Yorkers safe for decades and were defended by Republicans and Democrats alike for years until we got this mayor who fear-mongered about them so extensively.
Okay. Does that involve the NYPD?
Let's just be very clear. Defended for decades before we had 20 million people rush the border. I mean, we weren't dealing with what we were dealing with. And by the way, like, Obama wasn't okay with it. Remember? I'm going to have to pull that soundbite. We're going to have to watch that at some point this week. Not today, but he made it very clear. He went on to Telemundo or Univision and he said, look, here's the deal. The law's the law. And while he was making some concessions for the quote unquote dreamers, he was not willing to make concessions for anyone else. No one else, right? So, Trump's been asked about this, and I love the response. This has turned into a meme. What would you do if Mandani says he's not going to work or cooperate with ICE? Here's the answer.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zoran Mandani, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zoran Mandani?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him.
Okay, but again, I hate to have to do this little education segment every single day, but it is really important. If you're talking to anybody and they're going to, say, oh, well, he can't do this, he doesn't have the right to do this, you better believe federal government has the right to do this all day long. Federal government actually doesn't have a ton of rights. They really don't, actually. And I'm a small government kind of gal, having grown up in Live Free or Die, New Hampshire. By the way, Scott Brown, who's running for Senate in New Hampshire as a Republican, former Republican senator from Massachusetts, is going to be joining us shortly. But this is called the Naturalization Clause, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4. The Congress shall have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, because you know what? You can't have the United States of America if somebody's not in charge of who's going to be in the United States. All right? Right. Okay, so New York, you want to go become your own country? Maybe you can join Canada. Oh, although we may be gobbling up Canada too. I'm just kidding. I want to be careful with our Canadian fans out there. Or California. You've talked forever about being your own little country. Well, go for it, okay? Just don't expect us to defend you for anything, ever. There is constitutional precedent for all of this. You can go back to a case that was decided by the Supreme Court in 2012 in Arizona. The supremacy clause is part of this as well. In other words, you can be your sanctuary city until ICE says, you know what, we got a criminal hanging out in your city and we care about this and we want this person arrested. And then who actually has the power? It's not that hard, people. It's not that. This is not a trick question. It's the federal government that has the power, thanks to the Constitution. And that is what the Supreme Court is going to decide all day long. All day long, and then some. Unless you get Ketanji Brown Jackson, who even Sotomayor had to call out in yesterday's decision because the woman fails to actually argue based on any law, and she's just all emotion. She's like a hot take news anchor, kind of like, oh, she ought to join Joy Reid's show. That'd be good. There's no substance to anything she writes. It's just, well, I think. It's like, Ketanji, how'd you get that job? Oh, we won't go there. All right, Balance of Nature, one of our great sponsors on the show. You know we're fully independent here. We love being fully independent. I take Balance of Nature because it's really important to get all your vitamins and all your nutrients. And you know what else? This stuff is good. We talk about the MAHA movement. You know, Kennedy's gotten, my kids are going nuts with me because I'm looking at the ingredients on everything. I literally just threw out an entire shelf of cereal. Kid you not. My son was like, no, those were my strawberry Cheerios. And I'm like, tough. This is political now. No, I'm teasing. It doesn't need to be political, but I would say this. It suddenly, I think, caught my attention in a bigger way. And so I'm looking at all the ingredients and Balance in Nature, of course, and it's all good stuff. It's all good stuff. And you know what? We need more good stuff in our systems. I always feel really good when I'm overseas traveling. Felt great last summer in Ireland. Got lots of exercise, ate right. And actually, I think part of it is that there's just no preservatives in the way that we get lots of preservatives here in the food. So this is what Balance in Nature is about, giving you vitamins that don't have any of the junk. And believe me, I've looked at some of the kids' vitamins that I have around the house and mine as well. And it wasn't just the cereal shelf that I had to throw out. I mean, there are other things as well because, you know, you think you're getting magnesium, but suddenly you're getting all the sugar with the magnesium. I digress. The point is you get 35% off with code word Trish. Just use code word Trish. This is a great company. And you know what we love about them? They support us. And so it's a win-win all around. You get 35% off with code word Trish. It helps me, helps this show, and it helps you because you need to prioritize yourself and your health for goodness sakes. Balanceinature.com. Use code word Trish. Get the 35% off plus free shipping plus money back guarantee.